we've been told that it doesn't exist. And if it does exist, then it's not actually being used for anything. And yet, we see time and time again stories just like these, where we see a place where there's not enough rain happening at all. Then suddenly the government starts to meddle with the weather, and then boom, they get flooded. They get massive amounts of water falling from the skies, and nobody knows what to do with it, and the ground cannot absorb it, and they get massive flooding. People are impacted dramatically. We've been seeing this down in New Mexico, Arizona. We've been seeing this just last year. I was in United Arab Emirates when this happened. We need to talk about the weather modification because this stuff is out of control. We just have this absolutely insane story coming out of Iran, of any place. They decided to do some cloud seeding, and it has had some devastating impacts on Western Iran. We got to talk about this. We're going to talk about what we've been seeing impacted out there already. And places where we haven't heard one thing or another, but awfully odd weather happening. Friends, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to dive into some of the things I've been hearing from you guys. Some of you guys have been trying to bring me up to speed on some of these things too. And we're going to talk about some conspiracy things here a little bit. But hopefully we're going to be grounding these in a bit of fact all along the way. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. All right, friends, let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And these things you will not hear about in the mainstream media, right? I'm not going to hear this. Obviously, we talk a fair bit about what's going on in the sky above us in the United States. We got these lines appearing. We got the sky writing happening, and it absolutely, it seems to be devastating people's gardens and plant life. Apparently, it's devastating to plants, but at the same time, we have the genetically modified plants that are used on farms that seem to be immune to this stuff. So is it really them trying to save the planet? Is it them messing with poisoning basically everyone's plants except for the plants that are immune to this stuff? Is it just byproducts? Is it an intentional program to pacify the American population? You let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below, but that's the brief introduction to that. Let's talk about cloud seeding. Now, this is something that we know is a thing. Countries have openly admitted that cloud seeding is something that they do, and then there's been some ill effects. United Arab Emirates, with Dubai and Abu Dhabi down there, decided to do some cloud seeding last spring to bring some water. Well, it had a devastating blowback effect, and it just rained and poured in a way that flooded the entire country. And I happened to be on the ground recording a video as the storm clouds rolled in, and it was crazy. I'm going to actually link that video at the very end of this video because it's just crazy. I was talking about the incoming retaliation of Israel on Iran, and talking about the storm brewing just over the horizon. And meanwhile, this massive storm was rolling in on me, and the tree started bending down. Anyway, that was my introduction to cloud seeding. I mean, I had heard about it before, but I never really experienced the effects of a government-run cloud seeding. So over in Iran, last week they decided to do some cloud seeding. And this Monday, Iran's Meteorological Association issued flood warnings to 6 western provinces. The association observed that the average rainfall is still 80% below normal, even with the sudden heavy rains and flooding. So they decided to fix their drought problem by cloud seeding, and boom, can you believe it? The little people are the people suffering from this again. So they thought that they could be smarter than the weather. They thought they could fix problems out there. Now they're out there saying basically that the United States is tampering with the weather of Iran, and that's why they're having droughts. Now, this isn't the first year that they had droughts in Iran, and it's not going to be the last year. It's not so much that they have so much less rain, but over the last 6 years, they have had chronic drought conditions, and part of that is their own fault. They are basically wasting and squandering their water resources, and sort of like California, but to a more extent, they're actually drying up their seas, their lakes, and their rivers. When you use up all that water, a lot of it, it affects the weather, and they're having changing weather patterns because of their absolute crazy use of water, and they've treated it as a limitless resource, and they've just been giving it away for free. They've been using water in the most dry areas of their country, trying to grow crops in the name of trying to be self-sufficient. So they basically are picking the worst farmland and let's just dump water into it until we can grow something there. Bad ideas there. Big government plans, big government projects just not panning out the way people expect it. They want resistance to foreign pressure. They want their food security and self-sufficiency. And so they heavily subsidized water pumping and energy use in order to, they obviously have oil there. And so they're able to pump water based on the burning oil or diesel or gasoline. And this hydraulic mission of putting every drop of water available across the nation to use and not allowing any water to be, quote, wasted into the seas, lakes, and wetlands, which may sound like a good idea at first, but now they're going into cloud theft, right? Basically, this idea of Western countries are using weather modification to target them, and then that's why they haven't been getting rain, and that's why all this is happening. Now, now we're going to go off the deep end just a little bit. Is the United States using weather modification as a weapon against other countries? And there's some documentation of this, and people are probably going to be pointing to HAARP up in Alaska, right? Where it's high altitude radio stuff, basically ionizing the atmosphere in order to bounce radio waves off of it. That's the cover story. But a lot of people out there saying basically that it does do that. That it bounces off the atmosphere, radio waves, but then also what it does is they found that it modifies weather, that they can actually target areas of the world and kind of start messing with the weather. Is that true? I don't know. I haven't found concrete evidence out there. I know there's a lot of folks talking about that, a lot of conspiracy theories about that, and Iran is completely on board with that, believing that the United States is using our weather modification in order to stop them from growing their crops and watering their lawns, right? So we got that happening. We do have a whole bunch of interesting weather that has been happening in the last number of years, and one could actually speculate, what if the United States is using this against countries like Russia or China, And then those countries are utilizing similar technology to attack back the United States. Does that explain any of the recent weather phenomena that we have been experiencing? And I'll just say this. I have not spent the hundreds and hundreds of hours reading through all this stuff out there. At the end of the day, I don't know. I am skeptical of a lot of things. I'm skeptical of government involvement and stuff. And I don't put it past the U.S. government if they figured out a way to do stuff that they would absolutely be monkeying with stuff. These people who all think that that they need to save the planet by putting plugs into cows' behinds in order to stop the cow farts. These are the same kind of people that would have control of this technology. And you can just imagine they would start pushing buttons to try to alter the climate to make it better, right? And I think that anyone who hears the government trying to fix something like the weather to make it better would know that that would be such a horrifically horrible idea that it's kind of beyond the pale. Because everything the government ever tries to do, they always make things worse. Take any government program, and basically it always does the opposite of what they're trying to do. So if they're trying to pull people out of poverty and out of welfare, you know absolutely that that's the opposite of what that program will accomplish. It's actually going to bring more people into poverty, and more people are going to be qualified for that program. That's just kind of how it works. They throw money at stuff, and it just always goes wrong. So them fixing the weather, of course, would be a terrible idea. Anyway, we got the Iranians saying basically it's all America's fault. They decided to go out there and seed the clouds with the salts that basically gets the the water absorbed out of the sky, and then it rains down onto the areas that they want it to be. Now they wanted to water Tehran, the capital, because this Monday they began slathering the walls of Tehran with posters warning of severe water shortages and dry taps. Residents of the city reported going for days on end without any water. And it's not because there was a line break. It wasn't because they didn't have water treatment. It's because there just wasn't any water in the city. The water company said that their city's reservoirs were down to 5% of their capacity. You can just imagine how devastating that would be. Residents of the city also were suggested by the water company that they should buy their own pumps and storage tanks to handle their emergency needs, which you can just imagine that went over really, really well. There's no water in the tap, and so they're like, why don't you pump your own water out of the ground? It's like, no, that's not our job, and this is a city. Like, you can't just drill a hole in the street and put a pump in the ground. I mean, that's you can't just put a well wherever you want. I mean, it's not Saudi Arabia, and we're not drilling for oil. Okay, you can't do that. So the cloud seeding process, of course, is using salts that you spread through the clouds, usually with an aircraft, in the hope that the water vapor will condense around the salt particles. But sometimes you get a little more than you bargain for. And so that's why increased rainfall was reported in western and northwestern Iran. They did not have favorable conditions over Tehran and the capital, so they didn't do any seeding over the capital. But they did get some quick rain over western and northwestern Iran, and they did get tons and tons of rain, so much so that they had flash floods because the ground was not able to absorb it, the rivers were not able to contain it, and boom, they just wiped out a whole bunch of people. You could almost say that it would be a little suspicious if the people on the Capitol, who are usually the most supportive of the government, were exempt from this, and they started using this cloud seeding weapon against people in the outlying areas. One has to ask the question of, were those areas unfriendly to the government in the first place? Because that's when you can start using words like genocide potentially for this type of activity. I don't know if the United States has been attacking Iran with weather manipulation, but we know that Iran has been attacking Iran with weather manipulation. All right, friends, I just touched on a few of the topics here. I know that these are a lot of things that are very discussed within our community. A lot of you guys have strong opinions on these things. I've tried to stay away from things that I don't have proof on or a firm understanding of. So I'm just going to kind of open up the floor to you guys in the comment section. Obviously, know where you are, right? I mean, you are on YouTube, and they have a tendency to block some comments sometimes. But if you want to share just kind of pointers about your thoughts on things, or if you want to point to any resources out there of sources or people or channels or something like that, that really kind of answer some of this stuff a little bit more in depth. Let's open up the floor for that. Let's try not to be too critical of other people, right? If you don't agree with somebody, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that you just let them be. And it's okay for you to just kind of not say anything. Or if it's okay for you to be nice to them, even if you completely disagree with them, right? So you can have a civil debate, civil discussion with some folks without getting too upset or irate with them, because that's what we're all about here, sharing information. All right, friends, thanks so much for being part of the Watchman community and sharing information that you can with others. I'll look through a bunch of this stuff, and I will try to get back to you with some of the most interesting tidbits or new thoughts that I hadn't really understood or known. And we will try to keep moving forward into our understanding of what's going on out there. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining with us. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.